Hey there. Let me tell you about a crazy day I had. My name's Jake Sanders, and I'm just a regular guy who likes to relax. It was a super normal Saturday, like the kind where you just want to sit outside and enjoy the sunshine. I live in a little house with a backyard, and I thought it'd be fun to make it look nice. So, I rolled out this bright blue outdoor rug. It wasn't anything special, just a big piece of fabric to make my patio look cool and colorful. I liked it a lot, it made me smile every time I saw it. But here's the thing, my neighborhood isn't the kind of place where things stay calm for long. Nope, not with my neighbor, Karen Tuttle, around. Karen's the boss of our HOA, that's the group that makes rules for all the houses around here. She's the kind of person who's always watching everyone. She'll grab a ruler and measure your grass, and if it's even a tiny bit too tall, like half an inch, she'll write you a mean note telling you to fix it. She loves rules more than anything, and she loves telling people what to do. Everyone in the neighborhood knows who she is. And guess what? Everyone tries to stay away from her because she's always mad about something. That Saturday, I was just chilling. I had my rug out, the sun was shining, and I was thinking about maybe getting some lemonade to sip. Everything felt perfect. I didn't think anything weird would happen. I mean, it was just a rug, right? How could a rug make anyone upset? But I was wrong. Karen was about to make my day a lot less boring and a lot more exciting. Now, before I go on, let me ask you something. Where are you reading this from today? Are you at home, or maybe at school? Drop it in the comments below, I'd love to know. And if you like fun stories like this, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. Okay, back to the story. So, there I was, sitting in my backyard, looking at my blue rug. It wasn't fancy or expensive. It was just a simple thing I got because I thought it'd be nice. I didn't think anyone would care about it. But Karen? Oh, she cared a lot. She's the kind of person who notices everything. If your mailbox is a little crooked, she'll see it. If your trash can isn't perfectly lined up, she'll write you a letter. And my rug? Well, that rug was about to make her flip out. Here's something funny, though, nobody in the neighborhood, not even Karen, knew the real me. They all thought I was just some guy who moved in a few months ago. They saw me as Jake, the quiet dude who keeps to himself. I didn't talk much, and I didn't cause trouble. I'd wave hello, mow my lawn, and that was it. But I had a secret. A big one. And that secret was hiding right under their noses. It was something that could shake up everything Karen thought she knew. Want to know what it was? Don't go anywhere, this story's about to get wild. See, I wasn't just a guy with a rug. I had something up my sleeve, something big that Karen didn't see coming. She thought she was the queen of the neighborhood, the one who could boss everyone around. She walked around like she owned the place, telling people what they could and couldn't do. But me? I was different. I wasn't scared of her, even though she acted all tough. I had a plan, and my rug was part of it. Crazy, right? A rug being part of a plan? You'll see how it all fits together soon. That Saturday started like any other day. I woke up, ate some cereal, and decided to hang out outside. The weather was awesome, sunny and warm, with a little breeze. I dragged my blue rug out from the garage and spread it across the patio. It looked so bright against the boring gray concrete. I grabbed a chair, sat down, and just took it all in. I thought, man, this is nice. This is my spot. I didn't think anyone would bother me. I mean, it's my yard, right? I can put a rug out if I want to. But Karen didn't see it that way. She's got eagle eyes, she's always peeking out her window, looking for something to complain about. I didn't know it yet, but she was already watching me. She saw that blue rug, and it was like a red flag to her. She didn't like anything that wasn't plain or boring. To her, my rug was breaking some big rule she'd made up in her head. She didn't care that it was my house. To Karen, everything had to be her way, or it was wrong. I didn't hear her at first. I was too busy enjoying my day. But she was already planning her next move. She's the kind of person who doesn't just let things go. If she doesn't like something, she'll march right over and tell you. And that's exactly what she was about to do. She didn't know it, but she was walking into something way bigger than she expected. My secret? It was ready to come out, and it was going to flip her perfect little world upside down. Imagine this, a guy like me, just trying to relax, and a lady like Karen, ready to start a fight over a rug. Sounds silly, doesn't it? But it's true. And it's not just about the rug, it's about what happened next. I wasn't just Jake, the quiet neighbor. I was Jake, the guy with a trick to play. Karen thought she had all the power, but she was about to find out she didn't know everything. So, picture me sitting there, totally clueless that trouble was coming. My rug was out, the sun was shining, and I was happy. I didn't know Karen was already grabbing her phone, ready to make a big fuss. I didn't know my day was about to turn into a story people would talk about for weeks. All I knew was that I liked my rug, and I wasn't going to let anyone ruin my Saturday. Or so I thought. Here's where it gets fun. Karen didn't just dislike my rug, she hated it. She thought it was ugly, loud, and against all her rules. She couldn't stand that I'd put it out without asking her first. To her, I was just some guy who didn't belong in her perfect neighborhood. But she didn't know who I really was. She didn't know that I had something she'd never guess. And when she found out? Oh, it was going to be a moment she'd never forget. Okay, so there I was, just sitting in my backyard, sipping lemonade. It was cold and sweet, and I was feeling pretty good. My bright blue rug was spread out on the patio, making everything look fun and happy. I was leaning back in my chair, enjoying the sunny day, when suddenly bam, Trouble came walking right up to me. That Trouble? Her name was Karen Tuttle, my next door neighbor. She didn't walk slow or quiet. Nope, she stormed over like a big, angry cloud ready to rain all over my fun. Karen had her phone in her hand, holding it tight like it was some kind of superhero weapon. Her face was all scrunched up, and her eyes were locked on my rug. She stopped right at the edge of my yard and pointed at it with her finger, like it had done something mean to her. That rug is an eyesore, she yelled, her voice loud and sharp. An eyesore means something ugly, and boy, did she think my rug was the ugliest thing ever. She acted like it had jumped up and insulted her personally, like it called her a bad name or something. It's against HOA rules, she snapped again, crossing her arms. HOA rules are the ones she loves to boss everyone around with. She said it like I'd broken the biggest law in the world. Then she got even madder. I'm calling the cops if you don't take it down right now, she shouted, shaking her phone at me. She wasn't joking, she was ready to get me in big trouble just because of my blue rug. Can you believe that? A rug making someone so mad they'd call the police? Crazy, right? I didn't jump up or yell back. Nope. I just sat there, holding my lemonade, and gave her a little smile. Go ahead, Karen, I said, nice and easy. Do what you gotta do. My voice was calm, like I didn't have a worry in the world. That made her stop for a second. She blinked at me, like she couldn't believe I wasn't scared. Then she huffed big and loud, like a dragon puffing out smoke. She turned her phone on, punched in 911, and started talking fast. Yes, hello, she said into the phone, her voice all high and squeaky. I've got a neighbor here disturbing the peace with this awful rug. It's bright blue and hideous, and it's ruining our neighborhood. She kept going, ranting and raving about how my rug was the worst thing ever. Disturbing the peace? Really? I almost laughed, but I didn't. I just took another sip of my lemonade and watched her. She was so mad, her face was turning red like a tomato ready to pop. Karen thought she had me trapped. She figured I was just some new guy who didn't know how things worked around here. She thought I'd get all nervous and take the rug down fast, just to make her happy. She stood there, smirking a little, like she'd already won. In her head, I was a scared little kid who'd back down the second she got tough. But here's the thing, she didn't know me at all. Not the real me. I wasn't scared of her, and I definitely wasn't scared of the cops she was calling. See, I dealt with way bigger stuff than Karen and her silly rules. Her yelling? Her threats? That was nothing to me. I'd faced things that would make her run and hide, but she didn't know that yet. She thought she was the big boss, the queen of the neighborhood, and I was just some guy she could push around. But I had a secret, a really good one, and it was going to change everything. That's why I wasn't worried. That's why I could sit there, cool as a cucumber, while she freaked out. Her voice kept getting louder. It's an outrage, she shouted into the phone. He won't listen to me. You need to send someone right now. She paced back and forth near my fence, her shoes stomping the grass flat. She kept glaring at me, like her mean looks could make me jump up and obey her. But I didn't move. I just stayed in my chair, sipping my drink, watching her like she was putting on a funny show. My rug sat there, all bright and blue, not hurting anyone. But to Karen, it was like a monster she had to destroy. I could have told her to calm down. I could have said, hey, it's just a rug, no big deal. But I didn't. Why? Because I knew something she didn't. I knew the cops weren't going to be on her side. I knew this whole thing was going to turn around on her, and I wanted to see her face when it did. So I let her keep going. I let her yell and stomp and call me names. Every word she said just made me smile a little more inside. Karen thought she was so smart. She thought she'd scare me into doing what she wanted. You're in trouble now, she said, wagging her finger at me. The police are coming, and they'll make you take that ugly thing down. She sounded so sure, like she'd already won the fight. But me? I wasn't shaking or sweating. I wasn't even mad. I was calm, super calm, because I had something up my sleeve she couldn't even dream of. While she talked to the 911 lady, I leaned back in my chair and looked up at the sky. It was blue, just like my rug, and not a cloud was in sight. I thought about how nice the day had been before Karen showed up. I wasn't going to let her ruin it. Not today. Not ever. She kept talking, her voice getting higher and higher, but I tuned her out. I didn't need to listen. I already knew how this was going to end, and it wasn't going to be good for her. She hung up the phone and stared at me, her hands on her hips. They're on their way, she said, all proud and loud. You'll be sorry you didn't listen to me. Her face was so red now, it looked like she might explode. She thought she'd trapped me, like a mouse in a cage. She thought I'd beg her to stop or run inside and hide my rug. But I didn't. I just nodded and said, okay, Karen. We'll see. That made her mad all over again. We'll see, she repeated, like I'd said something rude. Oh, you'll see, all right. You're done for. She turned around and marched a few steps away, then spun back to glare at me some more. She couldn't stand that I wasn't scared. It was driving her nuts. And me? I just kept sitting there, sipping my lemonade, waiting for the fun to start. Why was I so chill? You're about to find out, and trust me, it's worth it. All right, so the clock was ticking, and things were heating up in my backyard. Karen was still there, walking back and forth along my fence like a guard dog. She had this big smirk on her face like she was so sure she'd won already. She thought I was toast, like I'd have to rip up my blue rug and say sorry just because she said so. She kept her arms crossed, her nose in the air, acting like the queen of everything. But here's the funny part, she didn't see what was really going on. Nope, she missed it all. While she was busy pacing, I sneaky-like glanced down at my phone. I had it in my hand, and a little text popped up on the screen. I read it quick, and oh boy, it made me grin big time. It was a secret message, just a few words, but it told me everything I needed to know. I tucked my phone back in my pocket and tried not to laugh. Karen didn't notice me smiling. She didn't even look at me right then. She was too caught up in her own world, thinking she was the boss of me and my rug. And guess what else she didn't see? A police car, a real one with lights on top, rolled up super quiet down the street. It didn't make a sound, no sirens or anything. It just parked a little ways away, out of Karen's sight. She didn't have a clue it was there. Nope, she was too busy muttering to herself, saying stuff like property values over and over. That's a fancy way of saying she thought my rug made the neighborhood look bad. She also grumbled about disrespectful kids these days, even though I'm not a kid, I'm a grown-up. But to her, anyone who didn't follow her rules was just a troublemaker. I watched her for a minute, pacing and talking to herself like she was the star of her own show. She thought the cops were coming to help her, to tell me I was wrong and she was right. She was so sure of it, you could see it in her smirk. But me? I knew something she didn't. I had a trick ready, and it was almost time to use it. This wasn't going to go the way she thought, not even close. So, I decided to move a little. I stood up from my chair real slow, stretching my arms high above my head like I was super relaxed. Then I grabbed my empty lemonade cup, it was all gone now, and tossed it into the trash can nearby. Plop. It landed right in there, and I turned to look at Karen. She was still pacing, still muttering, still smirking. I took a deep breath and said, "You sure you want the cops here, Karen?" My voice was light and easy, like I was asking her if she wanted ice cream or something. She stopped pacing real fast and spun around to face me. Her eyes got all narrow, like she was trying to shoot lasers at me with her stare. "Oh, they're coming, all right," she snapped back, her voice loud and mean. "You're in big trouble now, mister." She pointed at me with one finger, like she was a teacher scolding a naughty kid. She said big trouble like it was the worst thing ever, like I'd be grounded forever or something. Trouble? Yeah, maybe there'd be trouble, but not for me. Oh no, I wasn't the one who should be worried. I just stood there, hands in my pockets, looking at her. I didn't say anything back right away. I let her words hang in the air for a second. She thought she had me scared, but I wasn't. Not even a little bit. See, I'd been waiting for this exact moment. It was like a game, and I was about to play my best move. Showtime was coming, and Karen didn't even know it yet. She thought she was winning, but the real fun was just starting. While she glared at me, I took a quick peek down the street. The police car was still there, sitting quiet like a cat waiting to pounce. Karen didn't see it, she was too busy being mad at me. She started pacing again, her shoes making little thumps on the grass. "You'll see," she said, her voice all high and squeaky. "When the cops get here, they'll make you take that ugly rug down. You can't just do whatever you want around here." She kept going, on and on, about how my rug was breaking all her precious rules. I nodded a little, like I was listening, but inside I was smiling. She had no idea what was coming. She thought the cops were her big helpers, like they'd show up and cheer for her. But that text on my phone? It told me something different. It told me I had friends in high places, or at least in that police car. Karen was so busy being loud and bossy, she didn't stop to think about why I wasn't scared. She didn't wonder why I was so calm. That was her mistake, and it was a big one. The minutes kept ticking by, slow and steady. Karen didn't slow down, though. She kept walking back and forth, like she couldn't stand still. Every few steps, she'd look at me and shake her head, like I was the silliest person she'd ever met. "You're going to regret this," she said, her voice all serious. "I tried to warn you, but you wouldn't listen." She sounded like she felt sorry for me, but I knew she didn't. She just wanted to win, to prove she was right and I was wrong. I shrugged my shoulders, nice and easy. "Okay, Karen," I said, keeping my voice soft. "Let's wait and see what happens." That made her huff again, loud and dramatic. She didn't like that I wasn't fighting back. She wanted me to yell or beg or something, anything to show I was afraid. But I didn't give her that. I just stood there, cool and quiet, watching her like she was a funny cartoon character. Down the street, the police car didn't move yet. It was still hiding, waiting for the right time. Karen didn't know it was there, and that was perfect. She kept talking, saying stuff like this neighborhood used to be nice, and people like you ruin everything. She was so mad, her hands were shaking a little. But me? I was steady. I wasn't shaking or sweating or anything. I was ready for the big moment that was creeping closer every second. Karen thought she had all the power. She thought she could snap her fingers and make me do whatever she wanted. But she didn't know the truth. She didn't know I'd been waiting for her to pull something like this. My rug wasn't just a rug, it was a signal, a little hint of something bigger. And that police car? It wasn't here by accident. It was part of my plan, and Karen was walking right into it. Stick around, because this is about to get really good. Okay, here we go. This is the part where everything flips upside down. So, I was standing there in my backyard, my bright blue rug still sitting pretty on the patio. Karen was pacing by the fence, all smug and sure she'd won. She'd called the cops, and she thought they were coming to back her up. She was ready to see me in big trouble, maybe even hauled away for daring to put out that rug she hated so much. But oh boy, was she in for a surprise. Right then, a police car rolled up smooth and quiet into my driveway. It didn't have its lights flashing or sirens blaring, just pulled in like it belonged there. Two officers stepped out, both in their dark uniforms, looking serious but calm. Karen saw them, and her eyes got huge, like she'd just won a prize. She stopped pacing and clapped her hands together, grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. She thought this was it, her big moment to be the hero. "Officers," she yelled, her voice loud and bossy. "Arrest this man." She pointed at me with her finger, all dramatic, like I was some sneaky bad guy in a movie. She acted like I was a criminal mastermind who'd done something awful like robbing a bank or stealing candy from babies. "He's breaking all the rules with that ugly rug," she added, bouncing a little on her feet. She was so excited, thinking the cops would march over, grab me, and tell me I was done for. In her head, she'd already won, and I was toast. But then something super funny happened. The cops didn't even look at her, not even a tiny peek. They didn't nod or wave or anything. Nope, they just walked right past her, straight toward me. Karen's big smile froze, like someone hit pause on her face. The officers came up to where I was standing, and one of them, a guy with short hair and a friendly face, gave me a little nod. "Hey, Jake," he said, real casual, like we were old buddies. "Heard you had a situation." "What?" Karen's jaw dropped so fast, it almost hit the ground. Her mouth hung open, and her eyes got wide like saucers. She couldn't believe it. "Wait, you know him," she screeched, her voice so high it sounded like a whistle. She looked back and forth between me and the cops, like she was trying to figure out a puzzle with missing pieces. Her hands flapped in the air, and she took a step closer, staring at us like we'd just grown extra heads. I turned to her, and I couldn't help it, I grinned. A big, happy grin, because this was the moment I'd been waiting for. "Oh, didn't I mention?" I said, keeping my voice nice and easy. "I'm not just your neighbor, Karen. I'm an undercover cop." Boom. There it was, the big secret I'd been hiding all along. Her face went from red to white in 2 seconds flat, like all the color just whooshed out of her. She blinked at me, then at the cops, then back at me, like she couldn't decide what to look at. I kept going, because this was too good to stop. "I've been living here to keep an eye on some real troublemakers," I said, nodding a little like it was no big deal. "And that rug? It's not just a rug. It's a signal for my team." "Yep, that bright blue rug she hated so much. It was part of my job. I'd put it out there on purpose, knowing it'd catch attention, but not the kind of attention Karen thought. It was a sign for the cops I worked with, letting them know something was up." The officers started chuckling, little laughs that made their shoulders shake. Officer Daniels, the one who'd said hi to me, looked at Karen and shook his head, still smiling. The other cop, a tall guy with a quiet face, just stood there grinning too. They weren't mad or mean, they were laughing because Karen had no idea what she'd walked into. She thought she'd called the cops on me, but guess what? The cops were already here and they were my friends. Karen's mouth opened and closed, like a fish flopping on the ground. She didn't know what to say. "An undercover cop," she finally squeaked out, her voice all shaky. "You." She pointed at me again, but this time it wasn't bossy, it was confused. She couldn't believe it. To her, I was just Jake, the quiet guy next door who didn't talk much. She thought I was nobody special, just some dude she could yell at about a rug. But now she knew I was way more than that. I nodded at her, still grinning. "Yep, that's me," I said. "Sorry I didn't tell you sooner, Karen. Guess it slipped my mind." The cops chuckled again, and I could tell they were having fun with this too. Karen's face was so white now, she looked like a ghost. All that yelling and stomping she'd done? All that bossing me around? It didn't matter anymore. She'd thought she was the big shot, but I was the one with the real surprise. She took a step back, her hands dropping to her sides. But, the rug," she stammered, like it was the only thing she could think to say. She looked at it, then at me, then at the cops, like she was waiting for someone to tell her this was all a joke. But it wasn't a joke, it was real. That rug she'd called ugly and awful? It was part of my job, part of keeping the neighborhood safe. And calling the cops on me? That was the silliest thing she could have done, because they were already on my side. Officer Daniels stepped forward a little, still smiling. "Ma'am," he said to Karen, nice and polite, "we got a call about a disturbance." But looks like everything's under control here. He glanced at me and winked, like we were sharing a secret. Karen's eyes darted around, and she started breathing fast, like she didn't know what to do next. She'd been so sure the cops would help her, but now they were talking to me like I was their buddy. I crossed my arms and leaned back a little, watching her squirm. "See, Karen," I said, "I wasn't trying to cause trouble. I was just doing my job. Maybe next time, don't be so quick to call 911 over a rug." The cops nodded, and Officer Daniels added, "Yeah, we've got bigger things to worry about than patio decorations." They both laughed again, and I joined in, because it was just too funny. So, here's what happened next. Karen's big plan totally fell apart. She thought calling 911 would make her the winner, but nope, it didn't go her way at all. Officer Daniels, the cop who knew me, turned to her and said something super simple. "Ma'am," he said, real calm and clear, "you can't call emergency services over a rug. That's not what they're for. It's a misuse of the system. That means she used the police phone number for something silly when it's only supposed to be for real emergencies, like if someone's hurt or in danger. A rug? That's not an emergency." Karen's face scrunched up, and she opened her mouth to argue. "But it's against the rules," she said, her voice all loud and whiny. She waved her arms around, trying to make her point, but the cops didn't care. Officer Daniels shook his head, and the other cop just stood there with his arms crossed. They weren't going to listen to her excuses. They'd already decided she was wrong. So, they pulled out a little notepad and wrote her a warning. It wasn't a big punishment, just a piece of paper saying, "Don't do that again." But boy, did it make her mad. I stood there, watching the whole thing, and I couldn't help but smile. Karen huffed and puffed, her cheeks all red, then turned around and stomped back to her house. Her feet hit the ground hard, thump, 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 like she was trying to smash the grass flat. She muttered stuff under her breath the whole way, probably complaining about me and my rug. But I didn't care. She wasn't the boss of me anymore, and she knew it. After that day, the neighborhood changed a little. People started talking about what happened everywhere. At the mailbox, in their yards, even on the street, everyone was whispering and laughing about Karen and the rug. People who used to be scared of her, who'd keep quiet when she bossed them around, weren't so quiet now. They'd giggle when she walked by or roll their eyes. She wasn't the big, tough HOA queen anymore, she was the lady who got mad about a rug and lost. And me? I kept my blue rug right where it was, bright and happy on my patio. Nobody said a word about it after that, not one single complaint. Karen didn't dare try to boss me again. She'd learned her lesson the hard way, don't mess with the guy who's got backup she didn't see coming. My cop friends had my back, and that was that. It felt good knowing I'd stood up to her and won, all because of a silly little rug. Okay, so let's wrap this up with something cool to think about. Here's the big lesson from my crazy day with Karen and that blue rug: sometimes the loudest people act like they're in charge of everything. They talk big, boss everyone around, and think they're the kings or queens of the world. Karen was like that. She yelled a lot, made rules, and thought she could scare me into doing what she wanted. She was loud and pushy, and she figured that made her the winner. But guess what? She was wrong. See, it's not always the loud ones who have the real power. Sometimes, it's the quiet ones you've got to watch out for. I didn't yell back at Karen. I didn't stomp around or make a big fuss. I just sat there, sipping my lemonade, staying calm and chill. She thought I was just some lazy guy with a silly rug, someone she could boss around easy peasy. She judged me by how I looked: quiet, laid back, not a big talker. But she didn't know the real story. She didn't know I was an undercover cop with a plan and some friends in high places. That's what made all the difference. So, here's something to remember: looks can trick you. Karen saw my rug and my relaxed vibe and thought she had me all figured out. But she missed the truth hiding right in front of her. Next time you see someone getting picked on, like maybe a kid at school or someone in your neighborhood, don't be so sure you know everything about them. The person who seems small or quiet might have something big up their sleeve. They could be the underdog, the one nobody expects to win. And sometimes, that underdog ends up with the upper hand, just like I did with Karen. Think about it: have you ever met a Karen like that? Someone who acts all tough and bossy but doesn't see the whole picture? Maybe it's a grown-up who yells too much, or a kid who thinks they're better than everyone else? I bet you've got a story. Drop it in the comments below, I'd love to hear what you think. Did someone ever surprise you by being way stronger or smarter than they looked? Tell me about it. This whole thing with Karen and the rug taught me something cool: you don't have to be loud to be strong. You can be quiet, keep your cool, and still come out on top. It's like a secret power, nobody sees it coming until it's too late. So, next time someone tries to push you around, just smile and remember the story. You might have your own trick ready, something they'd never guess. Stay strong, stay smart, and don't let the loud ones fool you. The quiet ones. They're the ones who can change the game. What do you think? Pretty awesome, right? Let me know.